Hey guys, this is J77. I'm doing a diary style vlog, something that I normally do just to give updates for my what's going on with me, as well as going on in the city, including some news that although I'm not going to put some links into it, I'm going to talk about it because I have mentioned it early before, and just give my own thoughts, something that's coming right straight from here, and not nowhere else. And this one is involved, as you saw in the description, about the public school, as well as how things have gotten worse. Now, a few days back, I recently posted a What's News video. It's where I collect a lot of articles that was either founded by me. I've been keeping an eye on these news for quite some time, as well as some articles that actually been given to me by a friend of mine who forwarded me by the inbox. One of the topics that I found is from my neighborhood. I know I oftentimes talk about news that happen in my neighborhood, and one of them almost didn't make the cut, but I decided to keep it there because it is a very important topic, at least for me. And it involves Bloomberg criticizing some parents because they are not allowing, or just simply don't care if their kids are attending school, and that was being the fact that some parents don't know they're attending, their kids are in school, or know, and just not going to try and force it. And he basically got on the parents, and to the point where it did sound like he was pretty much putting part of the blame towards kids failing to his parents not taking their kids' education seriously. Of course, he has gotten a huge backlash. A lot of people say that he's out of touch with reality, and that he should be focusing more on making sure the kids have proper books, proper computers, teachers who are actually or actual teachers who was qualified, and before he posts blame on the parents. Now, in my video, I have basically said that I agree with both sides. I didn't think that Bloomberg was way out there when he said that parents need to step up their game and make sure their children are in school. And the reason why is that I think that that most parents, not all, but some parents just don't keep tabs of their kids' education as well as they should. And there's a lot of reasons for this, of course. Working two jobs, basically trying to put food on the table, or just simply they're just exhausted from work. They just pass right out and just never check the homework. I think this is a very tough situation, but that the parents are in, especially with this day and age where we're living in a more competitive environment. But I also feel that they need to make the time and the effort to at least make sure that their kids are, their homework is done, and make sure their kids are in school, and make sure they're getting pretty much educated. I mean, a lot of times I think the parents are relying way too much on the schools, but in reality the schools are not really doing what they're supposed to do. And I'll get to that in a minute, because the story where I'm coming at is something that I got right in my hand right here. And the most part, I think there's no excuse for not making sure your kids are in school. If you're at work and you're busy, but if you have a break, it doesn't take that long. Call the school, say if your kid's there, if he's attending, how much he's attending, or just basically have a your teacher's number on standby, asking these questions. So what is going on? How's he doing? What stuff did he improvement on? So that way I can make sure that's work on. If you communicate, keep in mind communication is very, very strong. If you communicate with your teachers, I'm pretty sure they will actually give you the feedback that you need in order to make sure your child grows in terms of education. Keep in mind, at least in my opinion, education is a two-way street. It doesn't just stop when the kid leaves the school. It's a constantly going. It's a 24-hour thing job. The teachers have a responsibility, but it's also the parents' responsibility to make sure that that their kids continue on the studies and the practice of education. And I think that's something that I don't think that many Bloomberg is far-fetched of saying. At the same time, I agree with what some of his critics are saying, that the mayor needs to be aware and need to step up his game and stop making so many bad cuts to the board, to the schools, because it's getting to the point where now there's a report out there, and this is where it's leading me up to this. This is this morning's paper, the New York Post. The New York Post have actually posted this, and I actually read it, and the only reason why I'm not screaming and yelling and mad and ranting, even though I am appalled by this, but it doesn't shock me at the same time, because I myself had went through similar situations but I had good foster parents at the time that got on them about some of the stuff they were doing. So that, again, that communication works a long way. But to hear this, it is really, really sad. It really is sad. And what this report is, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says that basically having pencils and papers, but not much else. Basically what it's saying, and I'm going to just basically run it down to you, that this report basically shows how some schools don't have textbooks, have textbooks that are way outdated. They're actually borrowing textbooks from other states just to educate their kids. Some don't even have computers. Some of them have to share one computer for a class that maybe has 13, 14 children. In some of the schools that they said that most classes don't have textbook, most classes lack working computers. A percent of corridors not fluent in parents, coordinators not fluent in English. 2 assistant principals taught subjects in which they have no experience in. They've just been thrown in there. There and so much more that has been blown out in this report, that it makes you wonder what the hell's going on. And a lot of the blame, I'm going to be honest with you, this lies from the fact that Bloomberg is not really making sure a guy who's supposed to be a hands-on mayor with education don't seem to know what the hell is going on with his own within the educational system, and that is simply unacceptable. It is extremely unacceptable. The border, and I do agree with this column. The guy who wrote this column, that was actually 2, Liz Sanzler, Yo Elvin Gordon. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, guys, but great job on this article. It's very rare I praise the Post for doing something right, but this is a great article, and it just points out everything that we knew all along. A lot of these schools that don't have the resources are from poor neighborhoods, and that's something that is mind-boggling. A lot of this stuff has basically just and more is just so underwhelming, and these are the schools that they are trying to get closed down because they're not performing. Of course they're not performing. They don't have the equipment to perform. They're basically working with nothing. And I kind of find it funny that these are the same people who can't wait to close down for what they claim for the best interest of children, which, by the way, I'm not buying whatsoever. I'm never into buying that you close down any school is going to help children, because all you're doing is not fixing the problem. All you're doing is taking a kid who has struggled with education in one school and place them into another school that he may never get that resolved, because number one, he's in a much bigger class now, and the teachers that work that class is not going to stop for 5 seconds to go over the work. Trust me, that this is how bad the situation is, and this is why a lot of parents have been pushing for smaller classes, because the attention to their students will be greater than when it's like 5 to 10, rather than 10 to 15 to 20 students in a class. And some of these classes can run up to 30 or even 40 at one point. I think they cut that down a bit, but it's still, you're cramming a lot of kids in these classrooms, and you're expecting them to learn the same way, and that just doesn't happen. There's this saying that my foster father told me a long time ago, that the problem really much relies on the fact is they run the school as a factory. Go bring them in, teach them the same way, bring them out, bring the next batch in, and that simply is not working, especially now. not every kid learns the same way. Every kid learns differently. Every kid learns. One kid learns slower than the other. There's nothing wrong with that. It takes more time. But to assume that every kid's going to learn the same way is just you're fooling yourself, and that's the problem with the board education. They have this one mindset, and it hasn't worked then, and it's not working now. But the point what I'm getting at here in terms of this article is that these schools that has these problems are low income schools with low income families who have their kids attending these schools. And all the schools that have been mentioned here, I'm not going to name the name of the schools, but all the schools that have been mentioned here are from areas of that area: Washington Heights, Bushwick, Morris Heights, Bedford-Stuyvesant. These are the schools that has been mentioned in this article, on at least the area that they have mentioned in the article. And these areas, some are high areas, but there's a lot of them that are not. They're pretty much mixed to low, middle, to poor class at best. And these schools that don't have these equipment, do not have the educational materials needed to teach their kids, is just simply unacceptable. It's unacceptable for any school to not have the equipment that they have. Now, of course, the Board of Education, which deservedly so, got bashed by this. And then the report is spot on by saying that that the education just don't care. They're just sitting back and hoping for this school to fail, to say, see, this school is failing, we need to close it down. And of course, the school Department of Education quickly questioned the accuracy of the report, as well as saying that they actually addressed this issue, which kind of makes me wonder, did you address it before or after the report was given out? Because let's be honest, no one wants to look bad. So they'll say, oh, wait, we was going to fix this, that was not correct, and they'll just put it there. And the thing about this, it shouldn't take a report to know what's going on in these schools. If you guys really care about kids' education, make sure they have the equipment, so that way the teachers, real qualified teachers, can do the job. Make sure you have the teachers who are certified to do the job, and make sure the person who is doing the job is experienced in the curriculum that they are supposed to be certified for. And that is the situation that we have. They have cut so much into education that is beyond comprehension. And the first excuse a lot of these politicians say, well, people don't want their taxes raised. Well, you know what? If it means keeping these schools afloat and making sure that all the kids in New York City gets the proper education, maybe it's a good thing that we may raise the taxes for the sole sake of education. I mean, let's be realistic. How much money do you guys think we are going to be saving? And I'm being honest with you, with the taxes that they are lowering, it's not really for me. It's for the rich buddies that basically have their kids in private school. Forget about them. I'm worried more about the public schools and their existence, because this is inexcusable. There's other states all laughing at this. There's other countries that are laughing at us because of this. And that's unacceptable. I mean, we claim we care for education, but this shows a different story. This shows a different picture, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. Education should be the main priority for everybody, no matter what side of the political fence you are, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. It should be the most important thing that people should talk about. And the fact is that you have a mayor who under his watch, by the way, allow this to happen. It makes you wonder if he really is involved in of the schools at all, because there's no way you can tell me that he's a hands-on mayor and this stuff is happening. He needs to wake up. He needs to understand that. And that goes for the Board of Education, because the Board of Education, they're not getting any excuse for this. They should have been on this situation. They should have been on the phone with these schools and saying, yo, what's going on? What can we do to help? And make sure they have the supplies they need. There's no excuse for that at all. I should be more angry at this, but the problem is that, like I said, with the experience of the New York City schools myself, all I can do is just shake my head and discuss that, after all these years, at least while I'm alive, the Board of Education have learned nothing. They have learned absolutely nothing. They've gotten worse, and there's no sign of them getting better. I don't care who they are. This is an education school that's happy with 3% jump. Oh, look, we make improvements. And by the way, that this idea of closing schools, the only reason why they're doing that is to make the mayor's numbers look good. This has nothing to do with the kids' futures education. That has nothing to do with the fact that they're doing everything they can to make sure every kid gets a fair, equal education. If that's the case, this stuff would not be happening. This stuff would not be happening with any school. They would show me how you're doing instead of just saying it and then doing totally different thing. Because all that is the number pool. Keep in mind, on the mayor, when a kid is transferred over to a different school that's always successful, they don't. That's adds up to their success. Oh, look, this school's doing great. This school's doing great. Look, the numbers go up. They're not accounting the fact that they closed those schools down to get those numbers up. So that's how it is. It's a numbers game, no more, no less. And the people who agree to these closures and the people who are letting these schools fail should be ashamed of themselves. And that's basically all I got to say about that. I guess, I'm curious. I'm curious as to other people across the United States, what they feel about this. I really, really am. What do you guys feel about this? Especially those at Magic Expression. What do you feel about this story? I know there's a lot of people out there. You guys may have had a similar situation when you was growing up. You guys may have known somebody who also had a frustration with the red tape of the city schools. You give me your story of this. Give me your own feedback, and please, by all means, give me your honest opinion. You may think I'm over exaggerating, and that's fair. But at least give me your honest opinion about your experience with the Board of Education, your constant experience with the Board of Education, and how are you able to do it to make sure that your child, if you have any, didn't fall victim to the rhetoric of the school system. And it doesn't have to be in New York. It can be in any state. It can be in any country. I really like to know about this, because I think that the more we talk about the educational experience as well as what your children is going through now, I think the better we can bring attention to the of a growing problem and make Congress and let our politicians know that, hey, you're messing with our kids' education enough already. Improve the system or else. Because I think these are one of the things that I think that never gets talked about unless it's an election year or unless when it comes time for job cuts. We always hear about the tax cuts. That's always been popular because nobody wants their taxes raised. We always hear about other stuff that I consider not important, but we never really talk about the things that is very important. And I think this is one of the things that needs to be really, really talked about, especially in the near future. I went as long as I actually expected, but I felt this was an important thing to do. I was contemplating on making this a audio topic, but I chose not to. I actually wanted to bring a face to this, especially for someone who did not have too good feelings towards the Board of Education to begin with. The past in general with my childhood experience, as well as the stuff I'm dealing with right now, unfortunately. But in any case, I really do like to hear from you guys. I really do like to hear what you've got to say. And please be open and honest as you possibly can. Scream and yell if you want to. I really like to hear it. And you don't, like I said, you don't have to agree with what I said here. But I can understand that. But at least give me your stories. I like to hear it from you. This is a community. Express yourself in this story, because the more we talk about it, the more aware we can make others in terms of the school system. Keeping it bottled up and making it and act like it never happened is not gonna, it's not gonna solve the problem. I'm sorry to say, it's not gonna solve the problem. But in any case, that's all for now. This is J77. I hope you take this video into consideration, and take care.